Today is the day, guys. MX5 gets a clutch, diff, and engine mounts. What's good, YouTube? My name is Harris and you're watching another episode of BRG MX5. In today's episode, we are installing 3 important things to get the Turbo MX5 a little bit more power to the ground. That's a XCD HD clutch, engine mounts, and a new Torsen diff. Just a little bit of update on the car too. The car has been running pretty sweet. I've had it retuned because of the bigger injectors. The 1000cc injectors were a little bit bigger than the OEM. The clutch does slip at about 50 to 60% throttle, which is why the HD clutch is needed. And yeah, there's nothing much to it really, just auto tune and trying to get the VE tables all correct. But it's not been professionally tuned yet, just tuned by myself on the road. After this install, it would be big power, so gotta get that sent off to a dyno or something to get that full use of the turbo onto the car. In the bag of goodies, I've got the rear main seal. That's the part number there. The diff mount, the diff seals that go onto the Torsen diff. There's 2 of them. And then the Mazda competition engine mounts. And there's 2 of them. And of course, the XCD heavy-duty clutch. What I don't have with me today is the diff, the half shafts, and the drive shaft. The difference being between the 1.6 VLSD and the Torsen is that the shaft is a bit different. The drive shaft is a bit different, so you need to get a replacement one of that. And obviously the drive shafts, half shafts in here to the rear wheels to the diff is different as well. I don't have them with me here currently, but we're just gonna focus on this first part to remove everything. So I'll probably split this up into a couple episodes. The first one is going to be like removing the PPF, the transmission, and the diff, and then maybe part 2 or maybe part 3 will be installing all these guys here. And the reason why I'm doing it all in one go is because to do engine mounts, it's lifting the engine up, removing the mounts, and putting them in. If the transmission's off for the clutch, that'll make that a lot easier. And to change the diff, I need to remove the drive shaft anyways, and the PPF and the exhaust. So, you know, clutch and diff is probably the same thing. If I have them off at the same time, it'd be easier just to do this at the same time. So, I hope it's gonna only take like a week, maybe, cross fingers, because there's still some stuff I need to do once the car is, all the stuff is removed, like re-machine the flywheel. I may look into improving the Torsen diff by welding the arm. And if you don't know what that means, I'll put an image on the screen that just to help it, stop it from breaking an arm. But yeah, so I plan to give this car a week. That's my goal, a week off the road on jack stands, so I can get all this stuff done. Man, this new jack is so much easier to lift. Okay, the car's jacked up on cinder blocks as well as the jack. I wanted to put the blocks underneath because I didn't want to use the jack at the highest setting. Did the earthquake test and it seems to be okay. I think it's high enough for me to go under and shimmy the transmission off like Greg Peters did in his video. And that extra clearance will probably give me a little bit more leverage on trying to crack some of the transmission bolts. So, time to get the wheels off, time to remove the exhaust and the diff. Here's a pro tip: if you ever get an exhaust made, make sure you get V-bands because they're legit and you don't need any gaskets. Just in case you're wondering what my exhaust looks like, that is from the downpipe. It's got 2 resonators and then going out to that V-band clamp onto the end pipe, which is straight. Next, to remove the down pipe, I need to remove the O2 sensor there, and then the bolts to the turbo, and then slide this guy either up here or all the way down. Can't get to that nut, so I'm gonna have to remove the actuator arm to undo that bit. Actually, this is a good point in time to get all the bolts and nuts that I take off the car and put it into a specific container. You don't want to lose your bolts and nuts and not sure where they go. Okay, so I've got this tray organizer here that has a lot of slots. I've got this legend, then I'm going to write down the name of the bolts that I put in here. If it's too big, I can take them out and then just put it in there. It shouldn't move around too much because, yeah, this tray isn't moving. That way, I can keep track of what I remove. So, for example, the V-bang clamp nuts that I've removed, I'll put it in here. And then if I go systematically down the row, I know when I put it back, I'll just go reverse up the chain and make sure I get every single one. Okay, where's the best way? Up. Now, when you're doing these kinds of things, people, you gotta make sure you take some breaks. Been at it now for about an hour trying to remove all these things. I'm gonna have breakfast, and while I do that, I'm gonna let the diff and transmission drain. It's also important to keep hydrated because you don't want to forget things or misplace things and just generally get really tired. So make sure you stay on top of your health too when doing car stuff. Alright, fill bolts out on the transmission. It's not a 23. It's not a 24. Whatever. It's so weird. It's not a 27. It's like a 25 or something. There we go. It is a 24. Oh well. To crack this beast. Alright, while that's draining, I'm gonna go ahead and remove all the electrical connections on the PPF. There's a couple of like plastic clips that clip inside the actual brace, so I'm gonna remove that because the PPF is coming out. Okay, I removed most of the things. There is a ground at the back of the PPF that you need to remove too. Obviously, I'm working on mechanical stuff, but it's always a good idea to remove your battery. So, not remove your disconnected battery. So the negative part of the battery has been removed. Now I need to take that ground off. Okay, now I got most of the electrical connections removed. You can see that dangling over there. I'm gonna start removing the PPF, which are these two bolts here, and there are 3 more at the front by the transmission, so I'm gonna whack those out. And there's a proper way of doing this, and when I find out, I will let you know. Alright, these two bad boys came out. They are 17s, and they came up from here. I believe the next bit is to take this little fitting off, and then it should be able to slide out, but I have a feeling there could be another 2 things up there, but yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and take out that little piece. For the life of me, I couldn't get that little piece out, so instead I removed the 2 14mm bolts on top of them. Hopefully that will do the same thing, otherwise I'm pretty screwed. That could be a problem. I need to lock down the hub so that it doesn't spin when I try to crack it. We'll try to put it in first gear. Nope, that doesn't work. What if I... That kind of worked. Mother. Oh boy.
I improved